Kids First C Tutorial Number 6, A Complete Guide from Nothing to Basic Understanding C by Victor Wong. So this is the sixth one, and let's go. Overview. In this tutorial, we're going to learn what decision-making statements are, which are if, else, and switch. These might sound very confusing, but we're going to break them down so we can learn decision-making statements, as these are very important, as you will see. Where are we? Yeah, it's kind of useful. So the stuff at the top should not need me to explain. You should probably already know what it is. The if, and the else is what's very important. So the if is a base, the else is another base, and the else is a base. These are kind of like the base of all decision making. So this stuff is quite complicated, so we're going to break it down. And we're going to add the extra switch, just for fun, but it's not in here. So just make sure that it's not in here. So this is an if statement. It's the most basic and important decision statement. Well, it's decision, but why is it so important? Why is it so basic? What is it useful for? Well, imagine this. You are a teacher or teacher assistant, and you need to assign like A, B, or C to grades of students. And you don't want to do this, so you make a computer do this. Well, how would you make a computer do this? How would it know that 95 is an A and 87 is a B and something like that? So you use the if statement and the else if or else. So if the grades are 95, 87, and 72, and A we consider is 90 to 100, B is 80 to 89, and C is 70 to 79, then how do you use out? We use if. So like if the grade level is bigger than 90, then we'll say it's A. Else if it's like bigger than 80 but smaller than 89, we'll say it's B. And then for C, we'll do if it's bigger than 70 and smaller than 79, we'll say C. Otherwise, the else will be unacceptable grade in quotation marks. So as you can see, this if statement is quite useful for a lot of things. Its syntax is pretty important. It's pretty basic too. You just have like a regular if, parentheses, brackets, or it's a Boolean expression. That's it. But remember this, and also make sure you have that ending bracket. It is very easy to have bracketception, I like to call it, where you have an if and an if, and then or have another if with another bracket thingy, and then the brackets get quite messy. Remember to have enough brackets, otherwise the compiler will make errors. So that's the if, and quite useful. Let's see what else ifs and else are. If, else. So this else is kind of confusing, but let's just put it this way. An else can be followed, an else will be after an if, but it's not necessary. Okay? It is not. Now, this, as you can see, can be quite useful. Let's go back to that grade example we have. What happens if we had a student that was, 50? Well, obviously in our world, it failed. But, why don't we just instead of having like this huge grading system, why can't we just have an end to this mess? Well, that's what an else is. So, else, as you can see, is quite useful. The else is just like the if, except there's no parentheses / Boolean expression. Other than that, it's the same. Do not put the else inside the if it's not nested if else. Otherwise, the if is not executedly done. So the else will have nothing to follow, which will cause some errors. So beware of that. The if and the else can also be useful for comparing numbers. If a number is bigger than 10, say the number is bigger than 10. Else, say it's smaller than 10. If we do not care if it's equal or big or smaller, we would use an else. Simply do this, cancels the rest. Also just telling you, there can be no ifs after an else. That's quite important. Remember, for the if, there does not need to be an else. Remember that, please. If, else. It's like an else, but checked and condition. Well, let's refer one more time to that grading example. As I said, if we have an if which says if A is bigger than 90, then say it's A. But then do we really want to have another if that says that? And then another if, and then another if? Kind of gets messy. And the link is really bad. Also, what happens is that after we get one of the ifs is true, we want to cancel the rest. How do we do that? That's what an else if does. Else if just like an if, except it checks a condition, obviously. Also has that word else. But also, if the else if is true and you have like more else ifs and else's and one else left, then it will cancel all of that. After one else if is true, the rest is canceled until there's no more else if or else locked in the chain. It'll just skip all that and go to the bottom. And as you can see, this else if is quite useful, especially for like grading example. It does a pretty good job at explaining how these work. So imagine you have a bunch of else ifs, but then it kind of gets messy. All those bracket section I said. Yeah, you're gonna have a bunch of brackets, and it's gonna be ridiculously messy. And also, you want that break from the chain thingy again. So how do you do this? Use a switch. Just like a bunch of else ifs, except first of all, there's no brackets. Yay! It goes the one case, and then after just blank, and then until the next case, which then the remaining stuff in the beginning case is done. And you might want to break in case if you do not want to be falling down the chain. You'll know what I mean in the later codes. It just means that if you have one case that's true, if you do not want to test the other cases, you can just use a break to stop it from falling down the cliff or something like that, I call it. But first of all, it always checks the same. It never checks bigger or smaller. Second of all, that constant expression thingy, that means that it's a constant or a constant variable and cannot be a variable. So overall, the break is kind of useful, as I said. The switch, overall, it's quite good for a lot of things. But at the same time, it does have its disadvantages. It cannot be compared for bigger and smaller, but it's still good. Switch Part 2. So you might not understand what the switch means. I understand, it is quite a hard thing. So let's get an example. As you can see, this example checks for is it a weekday or weekend. And I'll explain each of these parts in full detail. So let's go. This is switch definition. And, you can define a switch, just like normal. For if, else, all that stuff. Then you have the day of week. So you want the variable to be tested against. What is this? Well, for that one, you're going to need to put it inside the parentheses. This is what's going to be checked for. Then, next, case. Now, the case is quite important too. The case checks for stuff. It sees if the variable you mentioned in the switch, as you can see in the switch, the parentheses next to it, it has the variable called day of week. Now, it's going to check day of week and see if day of week is equal to 7. Not bigger, not smaller, equal. That's the only one it'll do. It's the one with disadvantages of switch. Anyway, so check it. If it is, it will print out weekend. But you might see why case 1 does not have anything. What? Yeah, it'll still work. It's something what they call cascading cases. So the case 1, as you can see, has nothing. Because of this, it's kind of if case 1 or case 7 are true, do the stuff below the most bottom case. It doesn't mean case 1 would do nothing, however. It just means that's going to do a little bit delay until it gets disposal to case 7. So that's what that is. And finally, default. What is default? I mean, it's sort of self-explanatory, but default just pretty much means if none of them are true. What happens if it's not the weekends in this example? What will you need to do? Yep, use the default. The default can be used to be as a placeholder if nothing else is true. Notice it has no brakes. Yeah, brakes will stop it from falling down a cliff. However, the bottom, you're already at the bottom of the cliff. You don't need to stop falling down anymore. So the default, the bottom, you don't need a brake, but still add a brake. Still highly recommend to add a brake, so in case you add more cases below it, it will not mess up your code. And the switch might take you some practice to get it, but eventually you will. So if you've been following, you probably noticed we learned everything that we are supposed to learn. So yeah, this is the task. Yay! Use an if statement to determine if a variable is positive, negative, or 0. So use this code and it will give you the number as the value of you can enter it actually. Now this stuff we're going to explain how it works in a way later tutorial. But for this purpose, you can copy this code and just remember that this printf, scan, and all that stuff. Just remember that will give you the number's value as you typed in, and then your if statement, that's the stuff you're going to do for the task. The answers will always be in the description, and let's hope you have a good time learning C. And I hope you actually learn from these videos. But okay, bye!